Hey everybody, John here with Havokmkr Studio and FMP Wargamers. So I'm doing this video because there's a lot of stuff been going on since 9th edition for Warhammer 40,000 drops, and you could conceivably apply this to any game, but we're going to focus on Warhammer 40,000 and the controversy that goes around what battle standard ready or battle ready standard for paint is. So, real quick overview. When 9th edition dropped for Warhammer 40,000 last year, 2020, there for the match play games, and when you're scoring, there is a way for you to earn 10 free points, no matter what, if you have your models painted to a battle ready standard. But nobody knew what that meant. People threw out all sorts of basically false information, showed a bunch of videos and different images, citing, oh, it's 3-color minimum. No, it's got to be, GW put it in this chapter approved. That shows you how many minimums. But there's never been a numerical value that Games Workshop, at least for 9th edition, and dare I say previous editions, how much paint is required. I think the last time that we saw anything similar was the old Rogue Trader Tournament, or the RTT, that they used to do back in the 90s and early 2000s. I think those stopped around 2002. Don't quote me on that, but they got out of the whole tournament scene and making tournament kits and all that around early 2000s. So what does this mean and why is it important? Well, it's Games Workshop's way of, quote, forcing players to get their models painted, which of course you go buy their paints to paint their models, which is more than likely it's going to happen for most people, and that makes money for them. So how do you make more money without telling them that you have to have it painted? Well, you give them the reward of 10 bonus points for match play. And most people don't even care about that. But when you go to an organized event like a tournament, then you're going to really want those 10 points, because it could be the difference between a loss or a win, or kind of close that gap. So let's take a look real quick. Let me get rid of this right here. We don't need that up right now. Let's take a look at, here we go, Battle Ready Standard. So in the chapter approved, that was 2020, I guess, or 2021's approved. I'm not sure how they're dating it. There was a thing in there for what Battle Ready Standard is. Now, in that, on that one single page, it doesn't tell you the numerical value required for the paints. It just gives you a variety of examples, the contrast and the classic method, but it doesn't give you, hey, you need 6, you need 3, you need 2, you need 1. So, that left a lot of people confused, and a lot of people just implementing their own rules, saying, well, it's the GW way, so this is how it is. It's GW says this, you need 3 colors minimum, or you have to use these examples. But those examples are all over the place. We're going to get into that shortly. So let me go real quick over to the Citadel color page. Actually, first, we're going to go to Battle Ready Standard. This was, here's their definition of it. If a model is battle ready, it means it's ready to game with, which means it's got to be built. Battle ready models have their main areas colored and a simple finish on their bases. That's it. That's all they say that is. So what does that mean? Why are people all weird and confused about everything? Well, I'm not sure. It says that main areas colored and a simple finish on their base. It doesn't say three colors minimum. It doesn't say a primer doesn't count as a base coat, which is a weird thing for people to say. Doesn't say anything about you don't have enough highlights. Simply put, it means it is painted and based. Games Workshop was very ambiguous about it. So let's address some of this. First, let's attack, before we jump anywhere, let me at least tackle one issue. Spray primers. A lot of events are unfairly, unjustly, and inaccurately saying that primer does not count as a paint, which boggles my mind, because Games Workshop literally creates colored primers for your models, so you can ease off the need to do, hand paint a base coat. So, I mean, they literally make that. Now, this is, like I said, it's simply a lie that's being perpetuated by a tiny, tiny, tiny portion of the community, not Games Workshop staff. They want you to buy these because it makes painting easier. Now, like I said, they literally make base coat spray primers, and they encourage you to purchase them. They even go into some videos on how to paint, including the use of their primers as the base coat. They don't want you, how to word this? Let's word it this way. They do not sell Mephiston Red Spray Primer, so you can coat your model, that's say a Blood Angel, and then take a pot of Mephiston Red base paint and then base coat over that, because you don't, a primer doesn't count as paint, as all these other people are saying, which is total hogwash. And that doesn't just go with their Citadel paints or the Citadel spray primers. If you take a color in a can and you spray it on there as your base coat, it's painted. That's paint. That is literally paint in a can. It is no different than the paint that is in the jar, or maybe those spray primers that you're using with your airbrush. It's the same. I mean, it has a different component to make the aerosol come out and dry on contact. But it is still the same gosh darn paint, so just stop it. It's probably the silliest thing that I've ever come across as a TO, as a player, as a fellow event organizer. I mean, it's near impossible thing to enforce, but who knows why they do it. So secondly, let's address main areas colored, specifically the word colored. And let's take a look at this. Let's see, where are we here? I'm going to be jumping around in between images and such. I think we're done with that screen, so that should be good. So first, color or colored. What's the difference between the two? Well, quite literally, there's an extra vowel in the second one. That is what the rest of the English-speaking world outside of the United States uses to describe color. So color or color, or I'm not even sure if you even pronounce it like that, is they're the same thing. Just like they have humor or humor, flavor, flavored. And there's a variety of words that are similar to that. It doesn't change the meaning. It's just the way that they spell it. It's the same thing. I don't even know why I'm getting upset about this. So what's the difference between color or colored? And this is where we're going to get into where Games Workshop said main areas colored. So, John, that means multiple color. Well, to color something, or for something to be colored or colored, depending on which word you're using with your country, it means that it either is a singular color or multiple colors. It doesn't mean that it's multiple colors and that's it. It's either it's got a color or multiple colors. That's what being colored means, because you are coloring something. Something has been colored. So singular or plural. It can be one or many. That's it. So when people say, well, it says colors, so you have to have multiple colors. No. And I'm going to explain why this matters in just a second. Actually, you know what? We're just going to talk about it right now. So in the official Games Workshop terminology established by them, battle-ready models, they have to have all main areas colored. That means what you're seeing on the outside has got to be colored. What does color mean? colored mean according to the dictionary definition? That means a color or colors, or colors if you're outside of the US, you know what I'm talking about, over the entire model. So either a color or multiple colors and a simple base. At no point so far has Games Workshop set a standard of how many colors they want on their base or on their model, and what constitutes. They haven't even said what constitutes it as a simple base. But we're not even going to go ahead and address the simple base. We're not going to deal with that today. Let's take a look at a couple other things. Let's go back to that image about Battle Ready Standard. So a lot of people say, hey, John, look at this. These examples right here are clearly telling you how many you're needed. Oh, okay. These are good examples. So let's address these examples. Now, I'm not going to list off every single color, but I went on to Games Workshop's Citadel color page and went to their contrast method and their classic method for the Battle Ready Standard for each of the miniatures that are on here, okay, on that graphic that you guys are looking at right now, hopefully. So I pulled 4 of the models, and I think I do cover I'm covering all the models, but we're going to cover 4 initially. So the first number I'm going to give you is all the paints plus primers, which actually do count as paint, but just in case you're being persnickety and just don't want to accept them, right? I got it. The technical paint, which would be, say, the base paint on there. Yeah, they use a technical texture paint on there. And then the paint that they put on the rim of the model, I went ahead and counted those. So those 3 right there, the primer, technical, and paint, I am subtracting with that second number. So the first one is everything. The second number is minus the technical paint, the primer, and the paint on the rim, just in case anyone wants to be persnickety. So the termagant in the image has, and I'm going to go ahead and read this in this way first so you guys understand. So contrast method for the termagant: 6 contrast paints plus the primer plus the technical paint and the paint on the rim. So that's 9. So that's 9 including everything, 9 paints. Or 6, that's minus the primer, the technical paint, and the paint on the rim. So 9 and 6. That's the contrast method. So people are like, well, there you go, John. 9 or 6. Let's just go with 6. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Let's go with the classic method. 5 paints, 3 shades, which are colors, by the way. They are watered down paints. They are colors. They count as a gosh darn color. The primer, the technical paint, and a paint on the rim. So 5 colors, 3 shades, 1 primer, technical paint, and paint on the rim. So for the classic method, I have subtracted also the shades, since some people are just like, well, shades don't count as colors. Well, you're silly, because they quite literally do. You are literally applying a color to the model, but whatever. So that's 11 paints or 5. Well, that's different from 9 and 6, John. Yeah, you're right. Let's go to the next one. Plague Bearer, contrast method. 10 paints or 7 for the contrast. Classic method, 11 or 8. Well, our numbers are starting to not add up. Plague Marine, 11 or 8 for contrast. Classic is 11 or 7. Skitarii Ranger, contrast method, 11 or 8. Classic method, 12 or 6. So I went ahead and did the averages of these 4 models. So the contrast method is averaging anywhere from 10.25 to 7.25 if you're that second numbers, in case you're subtracting the technical, the shade, the primer. The classic method, 11.25 or 6.5. Big differences, guys. Those are different. I mean, they're not huge differences, but they are differences in values. So when you say, well, it's 3 paint minimum, Games Workshop didn't say that at all. And their examples that you said we should use don't match up. They don't even match up to each other. So how many do we use? Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Well, I still got more for you. So here's just real quick, in case you guys are wondering what I'm talking about. The bottom image on this little graph right here, not even graph, but shows you their Battle Ready and for the Classic and Contrast. So, you know, an example. They have their Battle Ready standard paint set that you can buy where it's 4 base, 2 shade, 3 contrast, I believe, and 1 technical. Well, that right there was at 5, 9. That's 10 paints. I mean, what is going on? But John, you say, why don't you just use the recommended guidelines that they have on the web store? Oh, okay. I can totally do that. I went ahead and grabbed up the Termagant, Plague Bearer, Plague Marines, and Skitarii Ranger, and this is why I choose those 4 initially. I will give you those other ones in just a second. So, going back to that lovely image. Whoops. Termagant, web store recommendations. Oh boy, I hope you guys are ready for this because this is going to get weird. So earlier we had 9 and 6 for contrast and 11 and 5 for classic for the Termagants. Well, web store recommends for contrast 13 or 10. Classic method 16 or 7. Holy crap balls. 9 and 6. I mean, this is just not this is not adding up. Plague Bearers 10 and 7 or 11 and 8. Web store 10 or 7, 12 or 5. Plague Marine on their videos 11 or 8, 11 and 7 for the classic. Web store says 12 and 9 and 12 and 5. Okay. Skitarii Ranger on the web store is 11 and 8 or 12 paints or 6 paints for the classic method versus 11 and 8 and 12 and 6. Oh, there we go. We got one that it all matches up. Haha, victory is ours. Whatever. So the web store contrast method average is 11.5 to or 8.5. Classic method average is 13 or 5.75. Within like a small variation. So the differences between the web page and the web store contrast average is 10.875 or 7.87. These are the differences between these. My math might be a tiny bit off, but I'm pretty sure you guys are seeing what is going on here. So the classic method average is 12.125 versus 6.125, which is of course minus the technical, the shade, the primer. That's what that second number is. But John, what about all the rest of those models that are on there? I got you. So the model that's on there, the Rogue Trader Naem Shai Murad, I hope I'm not butchering it too bad. The one-legged pistol-wielding Rogue Trader that's in there, she doesn't have a method that was shown on the web store. All we have is her video on the Citadel Color, the official website for Battle Ready Standard for her. And Battle Ready Standard has her using regular paints and shades, primers, and such. So I'm going to read this off so you guys have another example of how I calculate it. She has 12 paints, 5 shades, 1 primer, 1 technical paint, and 1 paint on rim. That's 20, or minus those technicals, 12. All over the place, guys. So that's why I pulled that one. And then the Primaris Reaver. I don't remember why I pulled Primaris Reaver and Black Legion, Chaos Space Marine. I'm not sure. Oh, I just wanted the 4 altogether. So, because they didn't have an example on the web store. So the Primaris Reaver contrast 11 or 8, classic method 10 or 6. Black Legion Chaos Space Marine 10 or 7, 10 or 6. So those averages between those two models is 10.5 or 7.5, 10 or 6. So essentially what has happened is there is no value and no numerical value that you need for paints that Games Workshop is saying. So anybody that's telling you 3 color minimum or use this graphic, there's nothing out there. I mean, it's literally bunk that they are saying Games Workshop has set the standard with X amount of paints. Now, I could be wrong. I mean, I did a pretty good, I feel like I did a pretty good, thorough run through of what Games Workshop has set out there for us. So, well, John, what about that old picture with the 3 Space Marines on it? Okay, let's take a look at that model. I'm going to read this real quick right there, or right here. So all miniatures in your collection must be fully painted. Okay. This is perhaps the most ambiguous, as fully painted can vary from one person to another. Some people never consider their army fully painted as they can see room for a fourth highlight, some freehand heraldry, or some battle damage. Others consider an army fully painted as long as it has three colors. Fully painted can thus be a question of perspective, and a tick list of minimum standards doesn't apply. A minimum standards doesn't apply. Interesting. Fully painted can thus be a question of perspective, and a tick list of minimum standards does not apply. But everybody wants to ignore that. They're just going to look at the examples and read underneath the examples. Okay. Now, so that being said, we fully believe that deep down everyone knows that a fully painted model is, regardless of skill or time spent. We have included some example painted miniatures for guidance. So they've got one on the far right. It looks like a classic Marine with a heavy flamer. This Space Marine has been primed and washed, so two colors. This level of painting wouldn't meet the minimum standards and wouldn't be permitted at gaming events. That's what a lot of people are saying. So the middle one, this model is done to a more basic level with just the base coat of colors added. This is the basic minimum standards as we would expect, sometimes known as tabletop quality. At a distance, it's fine. There's room for more, however, and we encourage everyone to add those extra touches. They're not saying that this is not saying, hey, it needs to have this many paints, because I'm seeing 1, 2, let's see here. Let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 colors, 2 different texture paints, and paint on the rim. So that's 11 colors there. Then they get this last example here, which is really stunning looking. This Space Marine is a good example of what we consider fully painted. The model has the trusted method of base color, shade, and highlight. The base is finished with some texture, paint, and tufts. Final details such as transfers have been added to complete the model. I'm not even going to try to count the numerous different colors here, but I would say probably about 14 to probably about 16 colors here. And that's not even including the base. Now, this is an old edition. So how does this even matter? Because it's still not telling you what the minimum is that is required for battle ready standard. So I got some other examples. Let's show some quick examples and we're going to wrap this up. So the first one, this was on their Instagram after they had launched the Citadel, the battle ready standard for Imperial Fist in 13 stages. So minus a couple colors, basically you got 13 different paints ish. Let's see here. We got one. Oh wait, they base coated the armor in Averland Sunset. But John, you can't do that because primer doesn't count. Oh man. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just double checking on one of these. Oh, it's 12. It's 12 colors. So I was right. So 12 colors. It's still, I don't think it might include the base. So 12 colors there. All right. Fantastic. Thank you. Well, there you go, John. That's official. Except we've got Ultramarine Intercessor example with 10 stages of colors. And, well, those are Marines, John. Nobody cares. But there's an Orc with 9 different colors. Man, this is so weird. Actually, I think it's 8 colors, but it's so weird. Basically, ladies and gents, we're all over the place with the colors. And nobody wants to acknowledge that Games Workshop has come up with no numerical value that everybody seems to think. So let's take a look at a couple things, and we're going to get into one thing here just shortly. So first of all, does this matter? No and yes. No, because it's a game of plastic toy soldiers going pew, pew, pew. But yes, in the sense for official paid entry events, that the standard set by Games Workshop being used in battle points needs to be something needs to be determined. So, most important thing I noticed is that besides looking at the lack of clarification anywhere on how many paints are required for battle ready from Games Workshop instruction videos, their painting page, the web store, any of their published books, they all have different values for how many paints are required, ranging from 5 to 20. So when not counting, when not counting primers and technical paint, we're looking at about 5 to 13. So when Games Workshop is what they've provided the community, basically is a really great tool for painting models fast, and that's with the contrast paints, which is supposed to eliminate several steps, making it easier to paint than the classic method. But as I'm looking at it, you're actually needing more contrast paints to finish your models than you did the classic paint. So well done, GW. Well done on that part. So it appears, based on evidence from Games Workshop and some simple math with slight deviation for errors, that the following are taking place at Warhammer 40,000 events. That's tournaments and casual play, and might be going on with other games and Age of Sigmar, but probably to a lesser degree since they tend to be a little less uptight. So some TOs or tournament organizers or event organizers and players are unfairly implementing a false ruling concerning battle-ready standards, citing non-existent standards for miniatures, using that graphic I had up earlier, saying it's 3 paint. GW says it's a 3 paint minimum. That's all bunk. They're not literal. They don't give you a value unless you have to go, well, if you're using a Space Marine Reaver, you have to use how many paints they have on their video. Okay, what about the rest of my Space Marines that they don't have videos for? What do I do with those? And what if I paint them in my own color scheme? How many am I using now? So basically, there's essentially all these organizers are, not all, the tiny percentage, and whether it's malicious or just human error. Let's go with the human error more. Let's go with that. They're using these non-existent standards or setting their own and calling it official Games Workshop standards, are required to get that bonus points in match play games. Now they're setting those imaginary standards. Tournament organizers are likely, or there could be some out there actually placing their own standards for battle ready, using Games Workshop's rules as a color of their as a cover for their lack of knowledge or more concern. It's also tournament organizers are confusing the difference between painting scores for soft scores versus battle ready scores, meaning that they are mixing the two scoring systems when they really shouldn't. And by that I mean when you go in like, hey, I want to make sure that the entire model's got to be covered, you've got to have multiple colors, multiple layers. I need to see lots of funky details, all that kind of stuff to be considered battle ready standard. You're actually talking about an overall painting score to show the best painted, not battle ready standard. Don't confuse the two, okay? There should be two standards if you're going to be incorporating, which I think is a great idea, and that's what should be happening with the paint scores, is that you should have one to help determine the overall winner. So if the guy shows up with a army that's fully primed and based, but doesn't have all the other details, so it meets the standard of all areas colored and a simple base, great. He's going to, and let's say he wins all those games. Well, he's going to be ineligible for the overall because he's not going to have that final overall paint score, which is what's going to help propel somebody into the victory spot. So just something to consider, guys. So let's take a step back, because I know some people are like, what about Golden Demon, John? What about Golden Demon Awards? Okay, let's talk about Golden Demon Awards, because I know some people will use that as a standard. So I went ahead and dug up the Golden Demon standards for how to paint. Now, these rules have been in publication since 2019. They've updated the page, they've updated everything, but they've left the rules and the guidelines and the entries the same because nothing has changed. So, what do the judges look for? They look for many different qualities in a winning entry. Technical skill, atmosphere, consistency, and quality and narrative are all key components of what makes a winning entry stand out. But John, what about the number of paints? I got you. So the painting, isn't just about technical prowess, however. It's about finding the style and technique that works for you and applying it with care. The judges have no set preferences when it comes to style. As long as it looks amazing, there are no rules as to how you go about it. The background and setting is important as well. The judges will be looking at how well the entry fits into the Games Workshop, different worlds and universes. A strong narrative can go a long way towards grabbing the judge's attention. There is nothing in here, and I'll put that link in the description below because some people are like, well, I don't trust you. You've got to skip over something. Okay, that's fair. And if I did, and I'm going to say this right now and I'll say it one more time, if I screwed up and I missed something, then I will, I won't walk, well, I guess I'll walk it back. So I'll apologize and I'll make a follow-up video that covers that. Okay. I'll just put it at the front of this video saying, hey, I messed up. Games Workshop literally has, here it is printed. I missed it. And it says it's 13.25 paints. Okay, cool. But as you can see, Games Workshop is not providing a clear numerical value on how many paints are required for their prestigious award that's been going on since 1987. So as of 9th edition, I would say 8th edition and 7th edition. And I would go all the way back to probably 4th edition. That's when RTTs, I believe that they had, I can't remember, I can't even find the old slips. They had, hey, you might have had a standard, but it's been at least 5 editions since they've had a minimum number. Because around 9th edition is their first delve back into tournament play officially. They've left it off since 4th edition because it got toxic, got really bad. So as of this moment, I have found no clear documentation produced by Games Workshop that defines exactly how many paints are required to score battle-ready portion of scoring in match play for 9th edition. Currently on their Citadel Color website, their published documents, as I've said earlier, that includes the tournament booklet, the little chapter-approved booklet, do not specify how many paints are required, and most certainly do not state how many shades or highlights are required for earning battle ready points, nor does it say that they do not count as paints. That is made up. So what they do require and always encourage, because they're a business after all, and they're extreme champions of the hobby, that the model have main areas colored and a simple finish on their base. So that literally means having all the areas covered that you can see on the outside with one or more colors, and then something simple on the base. Some gravel, some sand, some texture paint, whatever. That's it. That's the minimum standard that they're talking about. But they encourage you to go beyond that. That's it, though. As long as the model is not plastic or resin gray on a plain base, it's battle ready for the purposes of scoring battle ready points. Now, I realize that the community will cite their own rules or ancient Games Workshop RTT standards, or this is how it's always been. But in regards to their guidelines for scoring these points, not yours or mine, their guidelines, the model's main area is colored, which is color or multiple colors and a simple finish. That's it. Now, with all that being said, I encourage every tournament player out there to do one of the following going forward. So, well, actually, there's a small caveat, note, whatever you want to call it. Be clear and concise that whatever standards you're going to implement are yours and not Games Workshop's. Because if you say Games Workshop says 3 color minimum and you don't have an actual cited document, because I've been showing you all the documents that people are saying are the saying it's 3 standard or 10 standard or whatever, they literally are not saying that. So first, give everyone attending, this is one of my suggestions, give everybody attending the event the 10 battle points per round for battle standard ready. Whether they're fully painted or not, Just I think it's a cool rule, but it's a stupid rule that Games Workshop should not have implemented. It has caused more trouble than anything else, and I think it's a rule that is too subjective, and we've already proven that, as no 100% standard exists from Games Workshop, except for all the areas colored and a simple base. Now, if you want to use that, perfect. One color completely, and the base has something on it, some texture paint, some sand. There you go. But most people are like, well, that's a stupid standard, John. That's bare minimum. Well, that's all they really want. They want you to buy their product and at least get paint on your model, and then they're going to encourage you to go further, so you buy more paints. But they don't have a standard. I think throw it out, or just go ahead and give them, or throw it out because it's for your event and it has nothing, especially you that are ITC tournament organizers. Either give everybody the 10 points just for showing up, congratulations guys, or just throw it out the window. That's all you have to do. The second is implement your own standard, and this gets a little hairy. So if the model is plastic gray and not base, then the player doesn't earn points. That's clear. Games Workshop is saying that. Okay. But if you want to implement your own scores, if you're going to circumvent their battle ready standard that we've covered here multiple times for earning those extra points, then you must be clear when you announce the event. It should be a part of the main rules of the event, and please don't bury it at the bottom of the rules. Get it right up there in the front somewhere. And that you are setting your event's own standards for battle ready, and have an example. Maybe have 3 examples meeting the minimum no-nos and yeses. So if it's showing up plastic gray and nothing on the base, If it's primered and it has texture paint, meh. Now if you have, it's primered, it's got some texture paint, and it's got 2 other colors, it doesn't matter if it's little dots, or maybe they just did the eyes with one color. You got the colored primer on the entire model, and then they put some metal on their weapon. 3 colors, if that's what your standard is, fine. But just have, how, if people are saying, well, he has it primered, he's got it textured, and then he's got 2 extra dots of colors. Okay, then there's your 3 colored minimum. You didn't say surface area. How much of the surface area is required? Now we're getting into some subjective thinking here, guys. So at least come up with your own standard. Okay? And then be very clear about it. Now, I'm sure I'm going to rile up some TOs and some players out there. And that's okay, because we're creating a discussion here, and that's ideal for clarifying issues. Now, I think I've provided enough information that goes against the narrative in the community. I'm presenting basically that material provided by Games Workshop on this matter, and not someone's recollection of standards. I'm not going, well, I think it was like this, or my belief that, well, this is how it is, and this is how it's always been, or my feelings that this is how we always did it. I don't care about all that. I'm showing you the actual standard that Games Workshop has established versus what everybody else is saying Games Workshop has set. So now with that said, I will certainly do a follow-up video edit or separate video, maybe, I don't know, if someone provides verifiable proof that Games Workshop says how many paints are required as a standard. Now, I have no problem, like I said earlier, acknowledging when I'm wrong. No problem. I do have a problem with any community leader or leaders, which is probably a tiny, tiny, tiny amount, spreading misinformation deliberately or inaccurately. I think that's wrong. Now, community leaders and TOs have a responsibility to use facts in such issues. Like I said, I'm prepared to eat crow on this, guys, if need be. Now, do I think, as a caveat, here's my personal view, do I think it is acceptable for somebody to show up with plastic gray? No. I mean, a local weekend event, okay. Do I think it's okay to show up with primer and base paint? Yeah, I do. Because you know what? For the majors, the GTs, and the super majors, you're going to lose those points. You're going to lose out, guys. You're going to lose. they're going to penalize you, okay? Because they usually implement an overall a soft score. Do I think you can show up with the bare standard going, hey, here's my 3 paints. You know, I've got my primer color, which is a color. I've got my Nolan oil over my Mephiston red primer. Okay, there's your 2 colors, and you painted yellow in the eyes. Cool. And you got some texture down. There you go. Minimum standard. Great. Congratulations. Most people aren't going to do that, but okay. Cool. You did it. I think that still counts. I wouldn't want that, but I get it. Maybe you don't want to paint. You just want to play the game. I get it. I think you should still show up with the model fully based. That means have an entire color and texture on the paint. So let me know what you guys think about this. Am I way off base here? I know my numbers are not wrong. And I know the facts from Games Workshop is not wrong. But I'm curious what you guys think. No matter what, give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And I mean, if you're going to give me a thumbs down, at least, you know, is it personal or is it professional? I can't tell you what to do, but please leave a comment down below. Hit that subscribe button because I'll have definitely an update video in the near future because I know the wave is coming. My name is John. This is Havokmkr Studio and FMP Wargamers, and we'll talk to you real soon. See you guys later.